Charte d'Auroville. Auroville n'appartient à personne en particulier. Auroville appartient à toute l'humanité dans son ensemble. Mais pour séjourner à Auroville, il faut être le serviteur volontaire de la conscience divine.
Why Auroville? What does it mean? The world had become full of chaos and ugliness and difficulties and disharmonies. She created Auroville to be a place where all these problems of the world could be dealt with and solved. I went to England. I was surprised the influence that, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, Guru Maharaj Ji, one or two others had, which is visible on the streets of London. You couldn't walk around London without being accosted by someone trying to sell you agarbatti or chanting Hare Krishna or something. When I came back for a visit in 1971, and my mother, we came to Bangalore, and my mother said that I have to go to Pondicherry. So I said, what do you want to go to Pondicherry for? She said, no, I want to see the mother. Who's the mother? She's a guru there. Who is she? The French woman. And I went, what? Everyone in the West is going to Indian gurus, and my mom's going to a Western guru in an ashram. And I didn't want to come, but I had to go as an escort for her. So I did. And I told her, I said, see, you can go and see your mother. I'm not coming anywhere near this place.
I came here for the first time in 1973. I had just completed my studies. I'm French, I'm from Paris, and I felt I want to see something very different. So I wanted to go to Africa, but then one friend of mine had just come back from India and said, look, why don't you go to India? You like it there, etc. And she explained how easy it was to travel and in India. So I said, fine, I'll go to India. I came to Delhi, and then soon I wanted to go to Madras. In Madras, I saw the headlines of the papers, which says mother died, and I had no idea who this mother was. It was a big, big headline, mother died. Who is that? So I came to Pondicherry a few, I think 1 or 2 weeks later.
My education happened in Delhi, and I was working in Delhi as a fashion designer. In '96, I came across Auroville units in Delhi in a trade fair, and it just happened, something clicked. They invited me to come to do a design project in Auroville.
I came here for the first time in 1976. I was a student at that time, and I was traveling for a few months during the holidays, and I came to India with a friend of mine who had been here in 1973 and knew about Auroville and the ashram and the mother.
I came in 1981 already to Auroville, and it felt like to me that I was predestined to find this place.
I had come to India in 1972 and 73, and at that time I was mostly interested by Tibetan refugees and the Dalai Lama and Buddhism. At that time, 72, I heard for the first time about Auroville.
I was trained originally as an architect, but because I got married too soon, I had to drive a taxi in order to make a living. With already one child born in a major urban city in the 1960s was close on insanity. And so we came looking for an alternative life in the days when everybody was looking for an alternative life, and a lot of people were looking in India, much more looking in India than they are now, but were looking in India for an alternative life, and so we We gravitated here in particular because of the Theosophical Society in Sydney, which steered us towards the Sri Aurobindo Ashram, and from the Sri Aurobindo Ashram to Oroville.
Well, I came here in the 70s, though not right Oroville. I first stayed in Jaipur in Rajasthan, and I was there for a year. Stayed with a family. Have some connection to India because my stepmother, who was with me since I was 6, she was Indian. But when I came to India, first I stayed with some family there in Jaipur, which was quite nice because since I've come here, I've never moved anywhere. So at least I saw something else of India, and they took me to Delhi and to Agra.
Of course, when we arrived, it was a different story because we went straight to the ashram, to the samadhi where Sri Aurobindo is interred. And I must say, I was kind of overcome by the atmosphere. A certain sort of peace and silence descended in me, which was incredible. I'd never experienced this before. And I was very impressed, surprisingly. I was very impressed by this. And I sort of nudged my mom and I said, you know, I'd like to see this old lady as well. And shh, not an old lady, she's the mother. And sure enough, the next day we went and I had a darshan of the mother. I was 19 years old at the time. And all I know is that she kept me sitting in front of her for a very long time. Even today, whenever I'm in trouble or whenever I have some crisis, I always think of that moment, or those moments where I was before the mother. She was looking in my eyes, I was looking into her eyes, and she blessed me. And for me, time stopped there. I mean, I believe I didn't speak for 2 or 3 days afterwards. And all sorts of things started happening. I was supposed to go to Oxford to university, but they weren't giving me a visa because my father couldn't produce all the money for my education. And I was in a bit of a limbo. And then suddenly, out of the blue, a grant got arranged for me. And I got my visa and I went to university 3 days late or something.
I soon realized that this was my childhood dream. You know, I think that every child believes that life can be beautiful, we can all help each other, work for a better world, and that if we would all be nice to each other, etc., the world could be beautiful. And soon life tells us that it is not like that, that man is a wolf for man. So suddenly I've come in a place where mother's work speak of collaboration, speak of building the city the earth needs and creating all these beautiful things, and I want to participate in that.
But when I came to Auroville very first day, somewhere it was clear that that's my home. And it's strange, I was just a tourist. I was more interested in the beach, came to do certain work because it was asked, and I like to work. Before going back to Delhi, they had already offered me a job. And I stayed back. Now it's 10 years.
And I stayed for a couple of months here and then went back to Europe. But it was very clear for me that I would come back to Oroville and live here. And that took me 4 years actually to do that. I came back to settle here in 1980. I went to the Samadhi, I went to the ashram, for the first time. And I had a very strong feeling I'd come home. And for me, I felt, oh, this is something I've never felt elsewhere. No, this is very important. And then, of course, I discovered Oroville as it was in those days, But somehow, what Mother has put in my way is different from what I was expecting. I was expecting to have much more of a meditative life, more of what I would have considered in those days as being a concentrated life. And what she has given me is a very concentrated life, but on an active level.
Oh, it's too complicated. I just follow my wife. My wife say, en avant to Auroville. I say, okay, en avant to Auroville. The first objective that I had in mind when I came east was to come to India, and luckily coming to India, I found a way to be well taken care of, thanks to the mother and Sri Aurobindo, and
And in 1974, in June, I completed my studies. I became a dentist. I had met the Dalai Lama's sister, Jetsun Pema, 73, and she asked me if I wanted to be a dentist in Tibetan children village in Dharamsala. So I say okay, but I was also in two minds. I wanted also to come to Pondicherry. When I came, it was quite clear that it's a place where I want to live.
I'd heard the ashram school, and I thought, oh, maybe that's a place where I can go, because my parents were saying, we'll only finance you if you go to school. So on the day I arrived, which was New Year's Day, they were having a little parade, and I saw that, and I thought, no. I mean, it was very superficial, but I thought, I'm not going to this school, though it's a good school. But they were the people in ashram, and also the head of the school. They were very friendly to me, very nice, and they helped me to find a place, and also encouraged my parents. It was a good place for me to stay.
We don't just live here, we are tokens to a propagandal attitude to life. We constitute the possibility to be absolutely and totally autonomous, which means you can grow your own food, you can generate your own electricity, you can pump your own water, you can deal with your compost your own waste, and you can educate your own children. It's a simple and it's a autocratic life that's possibly possible only in a country like this, because people here are incredibly tolerant. You can't do this sort of thing in Australia. You've always got some establishment breathing down your neck, and you've always got a massive amount of peer pressure that's trying to tell you how to live or how not to live in some other way.
And then I had a great time at university, but then towards the end of my university life, I should have been recruited. I was already recruited by a software company to join them, when something crazy happened and I decided to try my hand at creative stuff, like making a movie actually. And to cut a long story short, one thing led to another, and I came back to India, and I came to Pondicherry thinking that I would write my script here, but that wasn't to be. I ended up learning pottery and became a potter, and that's how the influence suddenly came upon me. I was not looking for it, but ever since then, I must say I've been very happy and comfortable here.
While I came here was because I wanted to lead a different life, not this normal kind of money-making things and having a profession and having a family and a house and a career and then this whole normal life, but to go within and to change the life into something which is really still unknown, but which I feel very strongly inside is this divine part of us.
That I came here to settle for good, and I have been staying here since then, so that is now 26 years. And I don't think of going anywhere else. This is now my home, and I'm fully into the ideals of Auroville, which I really want to see manifested.
We live by fire, and we communicate by satellite. We sit around every evening by fire here. We cook by fire because we have enough firewood to cook by fire, and cooking by fire is in fact an incredible luxury. The freedom to be able to grow your own food, to harvest it at meal times, and to cook it by fire is interestingly enough an enormous luxury in a time when people are completely confused about what the word luxury means.
At that time, and not only that, but there was also something in the air which was almost a physical vibration in the air of this consciousness coming down. It was very, very present. It's present now in different ways, but in those days you could almost touch it in the air. No? It had something extremely strong.
Sometimes I feel I'm 10 years old. That's the age I have come to Auroville. That's the time I have spent in Auroville. So my age begins, my life begins when I came to Auroville. And it's strange, logical mind cannot explain that, but that's what we feel.
But I spent a few months in Pandi and mainly read in the ashram library. But I didn't attend the school, and the money dried up from my parents. But by then I didn't care. And I came out here to Auroville. I cycled out a couple times. Auroville was nothing then, absolutely nothing. I don't know. I mean, out here there was only 70 people in Auroville, 70 or 80 people living in Auroville. And there was Aspiration, and there was the community Four Comers, which was a very small community. And I wound up going there. One guy left, and I took his house. Not a house quite like this, but similar to this section, in that it had a floor and a roof, but no walls.
Auroville in those days was described as a tribal music scene. It was a ragtag group of hairy characters who were living out in the full sun in rags and living on peanuts and trying to dig wells and plant trees to get themselves some shade to be able to survive until the next day.
There is a very interesting film from the Dalai Lama's visit in 1973 when he visits the Matri Mandir. He comes with one huge American car. I think the state government must have providing this vehicle. And he comes to Matri Mandir, and you can see the sea from Matri Mandir. Now there's only forest. If you see the satellite picture or you go to Google Earth, you see the picture of Auroville, you see only forest. So that's a big change.
Even on this process of self-change, you're not really required to do much except surrender. And what you need to do is that be aware of what I've learned, at least for me, over the years, is that every day things happen in your life. And all these things that are happening in your life are your lessons for the day. And when something crazy goes on and things can't work out, most people tend to look at external sources and external reasons and try and solve the problems externally. But Mother wanted us to solve the problems internally. And over the years, one's come to realize that the surest way of having harmony, physical harmony, and productivity in your life is to keep taking care of your inner space.
Coming to a community which has a 35 nation trying to live together and a global family, this thought pattern or cultural or psychological background of a country stands very strongly. And I went through that process that there was some responsibility I owed to this place and I had to perform. And it finally got translated that I'm a fashion designer. I know what it is all about. I live in a place like Auroville, and I got to have a responsibilities to represent India through my work to the place like this. And Upasana was born out of that need. Only intention was to bring India's identity through textile to Auroville. I was only one. There was nothing. The Upasana began under a tree. There was just a dream that I wish we have a studio. Now today we are a team of 50 people, 8 designers, a lot of students from all over the world, and the Design Institute of India. So it's quite nice and happy place.
Humpty. Humpty, because Humpty Dumpty had a Mumpty. He learned about it in school. He wasn't how it was used. He thought it was the tool of a useless fool. He didn't see it as a symbol for the simple things and humble things you mumble when you fumble with matter that can crumble and shatter till you feel like a fool, and what you need is a tool like Humpty's Mumpty. A tool with girth to give birth to the mirth in the earth, to engage in disarming the ancient secrets of farming, where the man works the land with the sand in his hand to plant the seed that he needs to feed the brood that he bred, from the bread that he baked and the cake that he made, from the varagoo that he grew, when he knew what the Mumpty could do. And that's where I began, with the Mumpty, working with your hands. That's what it's all about.
My work was mostly with other Aurovilians. I worked in services, I worked in the bakery, I worked in administration, I worked in schools. And mostly it was interacting with Aurovilians. Then I also was engaged in tree planting and reforestation, because that's what my husband was doing at that time. So for that I had much more of a contact with workers. But it's only when I started to work here, in the cafeteria and in the visitor center at large, that I really started to work with workers on a daily basis. I'm the one who organizes, I'm the one who manages, I'm the one who says it should be like this or it should be like that. I have a very good cooperation with the workforce, and that I enjoy very, very much.
Mostly our major activity really is having fun, harmoniously, because that's sort of what it's about, the understanding that we're all here doing the same thing with the freedom to allow each other to do it differently. The more you discover here about farming, about forestation, about building, about just the cooking, about just the fundamental skills of life, the more enabling they are to actually be able to personally engage in and learn more about.
It's a little difficult to talk about the inner life, because it's such a personal thing. But I mean, what is happening is like that over the years and in the course of one's life, and being in contact with the yoga and Mother Sri Aurobindo, it's this deepening of the contact, of the inner contact with the divine.
The definite freedom that we have, which is absolutely unbeatable, you can't find a better freedom anywhere else, up to us to use it, of course, wisely. It's not always the case, but I mean, if we use it wisely, we can even profit more from this freedom. And also the being in India, for me, it's quite important.
And here, this place was basically, I was doing land work there, and I got into composting, made a lot of compost, so I got into gardening on a small scale. And then I felt, oh, Oroville should have an organic farm, you know. And so I knew nothing really about it except what I was learning there. But I got in my head this idea that, yeah, do an organic farm. And yeah, then I started this farm, which is now has changed radically in the last years, but over 25 years I built it up so that it was not the largest in area, the third largest in size actually in Oroville, but definitely second biggest producing, and actually was amazed to see some figures that said it was actually the biggest producing farm in Oroville. But anyhow, it was up there.
Now it has come to a point that it does not really matter to me that what I do. It just happened that I happen to be a fashion designer. But I would be happy doing anything for that sake. Maybe clean floor somewhere and do gardening, and as long as that I'm able to consciously do that for her, whom we call mother, I'm happy.
After Oroville started, they were born in the villages, but they got something. Some of them really got something very strongly of the vibration of Oroville, of the vibration of the mother. And I'm very fortunate that here I work with some people who carry something of that.
So I want to do it sort of as I did before, which have a lot of variety, all different things, and yet make it work both in terms of producing and agriculturally, but also economically. Because after all, though in Oroville we don't believe in money, after all, in the end, unless it can cover itself some way or another until the supramental takes over the world and we can do things different, it's pretty important that it work economically, you know?
Auroville basically is an attempt to create the ideal society, but any society can only reflect the quality of its members.
Also having this no possession of any kind, which is a very scary line to think about, but very beautiful thing to live with.
During few years, 77, 78, sometimes we were starving. But there was such a spirit in Auroville. After all, we don't have any pension scheme, we don't have any proper insurance scheme. We have many things that we would have got if we had stayed outside. Anyone living in normal life get these dues. We don't have this in Auroville. But still, the life materially is easier.
Even though things have been difficult, because Mother hasn't brought us here for fun and games. I mean, living in Auroville or living in the ashram is a fairly serious commitment, quite in contrary to people thinking they're God's gift to earth because they've been chosen to live in Auroville or live in the ashram. I would say, if I have a qualification for being here, it's the worst part of me that's qualified me to be here, not the good things in me. Perhaps those as well, but I'm not here because I've got skill in pottery or man management or mathematics or planning or architecture. I'm here because there's something in my nature that is representative of difficulties all over the world in human beings, and I've somehow been opened up and brought here to work on it. Some people from outside tend to think, oh, you're in Auroville, you're such wonderful people and you should be like this, why are you having these problems? Many people ask this from outside, and generally I think people should understand that we are not here because we are greatly qualified or greatly spiritual people. We are here because we have great difficulties in our life and we've chosen to allow ourselves to be worked upon by the force of the Mother, whatever you care to think it is. It's certainly there, it's something there. And it's basically this force that I was describing, how you get your daily life, how you get problems, how you get situations, how you get disharmonies. And each of these, if you start to be quiet, you realize they're a pointer to your own inner being, and that the correction or the method of solving the problem lies exactly inside yourself. It's like you can press a button or switch a switch and boom, everything evaporates around you and suddenly harmony reigns. And if you don't believe me, try it out for yourself.
When the ashram was established, one of the things that the Mother insisted in daily life, that whatever we do, we should do it on a new platform, on a new basis, on a new inner foundation. So every activity of the ashram, whether it is from its educational work in the school or even farming or technology, is done with that different attitude. So spirituality in that sense is not so much what you do, but how you do and why you do. We have a very unusual approach to education. We have a school that grows from kindergarten up to graduation without any exams. And the result is that the class content can be tailored to the student's needs, and the teacher knows at each moment exactly what each child knows. You don't need exams.
We had a school here with 12 children for 4 years. We've had periods of time where there were 9 children living here for about 6 years. And we have days where classes of kids come here and work with us. Like last week we were doing workshops in shadow puppets.
Learning process itself is through play, through interaction, experimentation, project work, as well as where necessary formal interactions.
Here you can see that still the Renaissance principles hold, that the more capable you are in all possible fields, the more likely you are to actually survive.
The scope of education is not just what we call academic subjects, but also what are normally called extracurricular. All of these are included in the curriculum. And the result is an overall development of personality. Not only all the facets of your personality developed, but integrated into a single whole.
That when you do things like that, you're working with a group of children who enjoy to work together, but because you're working on a single thing, you are working with the individual as well. Individual children come out of their shells much more often in theatrical situations. It's been my experience. But there's no regular pattern really to life here. We've had any one day you could have easily turned up. If you turned up like Thursday, there may have been 20 or children here. You can, like yesterday, there was nobody here. We all went on a cycle tour. You know, I look upon this place as a sort of an access centre where kids can come and do what they want. And generally, it's more the unique and misfit children who come here. The more interesting things that Mother had said was that there should be no schools in Oroville because the whole of Oroville is a school. And I think if we rose a bit more to that understanding that everybody has something to share and to give, and a skill and a thing, and the whole place became more of an educational matrix.
Sri Aurobindo has brought a new perspective to evolution, viewing evolution not so much as a development of form, but an unfolding of consciousness. Yes, there is a development of form also, but form itself is made to grow by a growth of consciousness. And the deeper truth of evolution is an ascending series of consciousness, awakening always to a higher, vaster, greater awareness. Man today, emerging from a line rising from dead matter, plant, animal to the human, represents the peak of evolution with the development of the intellectual consciousness. But Sri Aurobindo says that this peak is not the end. There are further possibilities of ranges of consciousness which human beings have briefly experienced or glimpsed in mystical or yogic transcending experiences of consciousness. This was sought to be realized in the ashram, and when in the ashram the development of the yoga was taken to a point where it was sufficiently stable in the community, the mother extended the work into a new project called Oroville.
You see, the Charter of Oroville says that Oroville will be the site for a living embodiment of an actual human unity. So human unity is the aim of Oroville.
Oroville itself is a township. It is an international township where a practical working human unity can be realized on these spiritual foundations.
When Mother said that souls will take birth in Oroville, they've been born on both sides of the Oroville fence. You know, in the villages, children born in their homes have the same essential spirit and form and interest in Oroville as those born on this side.
So human unity is the aim of Oroville, and this can only be achieved by union with the divine. It means that we, the Orovillians, or humanity, will be one only if it unites with the divine. That there will be human unity. Mother gave several messages about Matrimondia. In one of the messages she says it represents Oroville's aspiration for the divine. And I think it is in this sense that the mother said that Matrimondia is a cohesive force of Oroville. Because you see, we come from 40 different countries, we have a totally different background, and on the mental level there is very little chance for us to agree on anything. So it is really only in sharing a common aspiration to a higher consciousness that we have any chance to agree to be together. Another message that the mother gave on Matrimondia is the divine's answer to man's aspiration for perfection. She commented, and Matrimondia represent the divine consciousness. People ask us, is this gold, and why do you have gold? So it is a foil of gold, just a gold leaf, which is caught between two sheets of glass and then has been placed in a high temperature oven so that glass and gold are fused together. The gold in Matrimondia represents the supramental consciousness.
The supramental consciousness is a consciousness of oneness which knows the wholeness of things, knows every single viewpoint as part of a whole, complementing and completing each other. It is the same consciousness that in the Vedas has been referred to as the Satyam, Ritam, Brihat, or the Mahas, the vast, the truth, the light of truth.
Sri Aurobindo has spoke at length, explained that man was a transitional being. We are not the last state of evolution, thanks God. And you know, I like very much this sentence of the famous naturalist Konrad Lorenz, who says, "I have found the missing link between apes and man, it is us." And Sri Aurobindo has explained that there cannot be evolution if there is no involution first. So it means you cannot have something coming out of nothing. This supramental consciousness is already there in matter and is coming out of the matter.
When Auroville was formed, the mother established the Charter of Auroville, which describes Auroville as a space of unending progress.
Mother said that Matrimony is the soul of Auroville. Towards the end of '65, the site for Auroville was chosen, and it is the banyan tree which you see over there, which was selected as the geographical center of Auroville, because at that time there was absolutely nothing here. It was the only tree that was there. So when the architect reported to the mother that there was this beautiful banyan tree, she was very happy. She felt it was a good omen, because banyans are sacred, as everyone knows. And so she decided that this will be the geographical center of the town. On 21st February of '68, representatives from every state of India and every country of the world came, one young man and one young lady, and they climbed the little pathway leading to the urn at the center and placed a handful of soil of the respective countries or state in that urn. And during the ceremony, the mother, who was already 90 and who had not come out of her home since 10 years, read the Charter of Auroville.
So she thought that it was perhaps a way to prevent another war. Difficulties and impossibilities in the world were being exclusively focused and concentrated on in India. And it seemed to be on a greater magnitude in India than anywhere else in the world. And then she had the realization that the reason these were there in India was because the cure was also in India. India as a country contains the spiritual force necessary to cure the world of its difficulties. And then it came to her in a flash that that's why she created Auroville.
To realize the self is something like a spiritual realization. It would be something like realizing something much more impersonal. That means you get rid of the ego. That means you find your soul, you get into contact with your psychic and all these things. I cannot say that I have realized all of this, but yes, working on it. But we still have a long way to go. We are not yet reached there. We haven't yet realized the divine.
Of course Auroville will succeed. Of course the project will happen. May not be in my time. Our children, their children, I mean, hopefully the villagers and their children, and I think the next generations will be able to do better than we have. I'm optimistic.